So I had a conversation with a young lady just yesterday. She and her boyfriend were talking about potentially buying a house in the near future. They're currently renting, and they're paying $1,600 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. And she said it's got really nice amenities and whatnot, and that they started renting because they didn't have enough money for a down payment for a house. But they're now getting to a point where, number one, they got a letter from their landlord from the apartment complex saying that their rent is going to be going up. That's number one. But number two, the amount that they're spending per month, they're really getting concerned about not being able to ever be able to afford a home because of buying a house today is so much more expensive than it was, say, a year ago. And it's more expensive than it was, say, 2 years ago. So basically, they are worried that the dream of home ownership is getting further and further away. And they're worried that they're never, ever going to be able to afford to purchase a home and that they will be stuck renting forever and never, ever be able to afford a house. And I just wanted to share this with you guys because I feel like a lot of Americans right now may find themselves in a very similar predicament, and they're worried about, hey, will I be stuck renting forever? Will I ever be able to buy a house? Will I ever be able to afford to purchase a home? With the Fed raising interest rates, we've seen the cost of home ownership just almost double. In many cases, it has doubled or doubled and then some in terms of the cost of home ownership. So I wanted to share what my response was to her, because this may apply to you in your situation, and you and your family situation. Maybe you've got a friend in a similar situation where they're renting and they hate it. They're looking at how much money they're spending per month in rent. Maybe you're not spending $1,600 per month in rent. Maybe you're spending $1,000. I don't know how much you're spending, but no matter what it is, most renters are probably finding themselves in a position like this if their ideal situation was to own a home that they could afford, right? So I just wanted to share this with you because this could very well happen in the future. So here we are, 2022. Fed has already dropped, 75 basis point rate hikes in the last 3 sessions. For 2022, the Fed has increased the federal funds interest rate 5 times this year. That's a lot. They're getting really, really aggressive, trying to come after inflation and lower prices and whatnot, or at least that's what they're telling us, right? But what we've seen so far is since the Fed has been raising interest rates, housing has not come down. The housing market, the prices for houses are still as high as they have been for like the last year or so. And we've seen in a lot of housing markets, home prices just about nearly double in some cases. So the combination of higher prices and a higher interest rate from the Fed recently has made home ownership and the ability to purchase a home just tremendously more expensive. So I told her, don't worry about it, do what you got to do, stockpile cash, prepare for the future, because what we see today can easily change. Most people would never have predicted the current financial situation that we're dealing with right now. So let me give you a scenario where this could totally turn around for you, and you renting right now could turn out to be one of the smartest decisions you could have ever made that you never even thought of. Now, this is a hypothetical situation, but this is what I told her. So I told her this. Okay, the Fed is still raising interest rates. We're expecting 1 or 2 more rate hikes this year. We're probably going to see another several interest rate hikes going into next year. One of the biggest problems that we're seeing right now, and one of the Fed's biggest goals, is not only to lower inflation, but the Fed basically wants to crash the housing market. And so right now, because the interest rates are high and the home prices are high at the same time, housing is at historically high. It's more expensive today than almost any other period in time in history, like ever. So homes are just unbelievably expensive today, right? But here's the thing. Economic cycles change, right? So look at it like this. A lot of houses are hitting the market and they're not lowering their prices. But these houses, they're sitting on the market longer and longer and longer. What we're going to likely see is more sellers hitting the market for different reasons. Some people list their house for sale because they just want to see how much they can get for it. Some sellers are motivated though, and these motivated sellers will hit the market because of job loss. Fed Chair Jerome Powell has already told us that the labor market will soften. We already know that. We're seeing layoffs. We're seeing unemployment tick up a little bit. Hiring is declining. So what this is going to amount to is more and more sellers who have to sell will have to lower their prices. More and more sellers who are losing their jobs to avoid foreclosure will try to sell their houses. More and more sellers who lose their job and then get a new job that's out of state, for example, will have to relocate. All of these scenarios amount to being a motivated seller. So these motivated sellers will literally be forced to lower their prices, right? Now, if we see a continuous pattern of sellers taking less money for their homes, appraisals are based on comps. Appraisals are based on recent sales. So if this pattern starts to pick up and we see more and more sellers taking less and less money for these homes, let's just go ahead and fast forward, say 3 years. So meanwhile, you're still renting. You're camping out. You're waiting for this market to turn around. You're surviving by making your rent payments. But meanwhile, you're starting to see some of these house prices coming down. Now, here's the other thing. How high will interest rates go? Well, what we've seen in the past is we've seen the Fed raise interest rates until a point. We've seen the Fed lower interest rates. So when the Fed 2 years ago started lowering interest rate at the onset of the pandemic to keep the economy from crashing, that was one of their tools that they used to stimulate the economy. And right now, they're trying to slow down the economy. They're saying that people have too much money, and this is their way of drying up the market. And so higher interest rates is making people not want to borrow money. It's making people not want to make purchases. So what happens, let's just say 2-3 years down the line, that $400,000 house could now probably be worth $325,000. So now you've saved $75,000 on this house. You've saved almost 25% on this house in 3 years. Now, here's another thing. A lot of people are saying that the Fed, including myself, many economists believe that the Fed will continue to raise interest rates to a point where it causes an economic collapse. Some people are saying a depression. I don't know how far it's going to go. I don't know if we're going to go into a depression. But here's the thing. When this happens, the Fed will have to pivot and they will have to turn around and they will no longer be able to raise interest rates. They will then likely have to either stop or reduce interest rates, depending upon where we are in the economy. So let's just say that the Fed's like, oh man, we got to turn this thing around. Fed Chair Jerome Powell gets up in front of the news cameras and explains their new projections, their new plans, their pivot, right? What would happen if the housing market crashes, your $400,000 house is now $325,000, and then to jumpstart the economy, to stimulate the economy, because they crashed the economy by raising the interest rates so drastically that they end up having to lower interest rates. So then, what if we're back down to 4% interest rates, 3% interest rates? You end up looking like a genius for renting for the next 2 to 3 years, holding out, waiting for the deal. I mean, literally just camping out and scoping out, the deals that are hitting the housing market, right? Then in the meantime, you're getting your credit right. You're building up a strong down payment. You're adding to your savings account. You're stockpiling cash. And now here's another thing. Not only are you getting this $400,000 house for $325,000, so you save $75,000. Well, if you wanted to put 20% down on a $400,000 house, that's $80,000, right? That's a significant amount of money. If that house dropped to say $325,000, then you would only need, say, $65,000 instead of $80,000 for your down payment. $65,000 is certainly still a lot of money, but you saved $15,000 on your down payment. You saved $75,000 on your purchase price, and you instead of getting a 7% mortgage, you get a 3%, 4% mortgage in the future. You end up looking like a genius for renting in the time being and camping out and waiting for the deals to happen. So, we've seen interest rates, if you look historically, interest rates, they go up and they go down. They go up and down. Not all the time, but it's a cycle. So there'll be years of interest rates going up, years of interest rates going down, and it's only a matter of time before interest rates do come back down. So if you're in this situation and you're thinking that renting is a waste of money, it really depends on your strategy, it depends on your goals, and it depends on what your economic preparation plans look like. So anyway, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. If you made it this far, drop a like for the video, consider subscribing to the channel, and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll talk to you later.